Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for watching The Object of the Game. For Coach Chuck Kyle, I'm Maureen Kyle, and we talk about how any field that your child is playing on, football field, baseball diamond, soccer field, whatever it is, it's an education. It is where they are learning. They are learning from your example. They are learning how to play the game. They are learning fundamentals. And today we are going to be talking about the people you need to actually make this game a real game, which is the referees and the umpires that take the time. They are well-versed in the rules and the regulations. And unfortunately, they are sometimes the ones who are targeted the most by the fans, by the players, by the coaches sometimes. We've all heard those horrible stories, or you see video circulating on social media channels that show some bad behavior. There is a shortage. That's been in the headlines for years. So we want to take some time to talk about that today because we're in the middle of baseball, softball season. Most likely you have a child who is part of it, a grandchild. Maybe you're part of a league. And Dad, this is something that we've talked a lot about just in general about how difficult it is to staff these games. And you work with a lot of referees in different committees, and you've heard some stories as well.
Right. And what's important to realize is there is a need, clearly a need, for these wonderful educational experiences called sports. I'm sure I'm going to have more officials on as this show goes on because their story needs to get out. Mm-hmm. And you see people willing to make that commitment to do it. And it's an experience that athletically, the kids are yelling and running and having a great time, and it's a positive experience. And the officials are there; they're leading the experience. They're leading the experience. No, wait a minute. The coach is leading the experience. Look, I coached for 50 years. When the game begins, I'm on the sidelines, and there's things I'm doing, but the officials are leading the experience. They're controlling the experience, so it's done as fairly as possible and as enjoyable as possible. Mm-hmm. And we have to realize that. And there is a commitment. All these people that you see officiating football games and baseball games and everything like that, soccer games, lacrosse games, they have another job. They have a family. But they see some value here. Mm-hmm. And we have to remember we're the adults. The umpire is the adult. Coach is the adult, okay? The parents are the adults. Mm-hmm. And we've got to do a better job at that, okay?
Now, for years, obviously, you had experience with referees on the football field. What was that dynamic like? What was going through your mind, especially with these people that you would see pretty often? And I'm sure that you didn't agree with some of the calls sometimes, but talk to me about that relationship and then what you've witnessed.
Right. Look, they'll tell you I was very easy going, believe it or not. And it's a simple answer. I did not have the best view, okay? I didn't. And I would always just kind of say, well, okay, I hope when I see the movie tomorrow morning that this comes as an accurate call, because at this point we're moving on. But my point is, I always appreciated the officials that communicated. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you. The one things that would get to me, okay, this penalty took place, but if you got the good communication, you go, yep, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And maybe they were right. Maybe they were wrong. They'll be the first ones to say, we'll have the football officials on here too. And they'll tell you, they may have gotten it wrong. I've had officials go, maybe I shouldn't have called that. It's the game. Let's go. It's not the only play in the baseball game or a football game. There's other things. Mm-hmm. But the important thing is, and we're going to hear a lot about this, it's an experience for the players. And the officials are conducting this. They're leading the situations. And they want it to be a great experience. And that's what we all have to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And I always believe that. I just, look, make the call, whatever, and, we'll handle it from there. But we can't play the games without them.
Yeah. And that's what is happening around the entire country. Is there's such a shortage that games are unable to be held because you can't play the game without them. And our guest today is Bruce Epstein. He has been a veteran umpire here in Northeast Ohio for 32 years. He's going to talk about what that's like from his perspective. But before we get to Bruce, I want to thank our sponsors, Infinity of Beechwood and Infinity of Akron. They've got some great vehicles on the lot. Get behind the wheel of the completely reimagined, entirely redesigned Infiniti QX80. It's built for comfort, designed for performance, and crafted to impress. The 2025 QX80 has earned the IIHS top safety pick for its structural integrity and advanced safety technology. Visit Infinity of Beechwood and Infinity of Akron and experience the difference. This is luxury redefined. So thank you to those guys. And when we come back, we're going to have more with our guest, Bruce Epstein. Welcome back to the object of the game. And as we were just talking about, umpires, referees are such a huge part of any sport that you play, your child plays, how you grew up. And we know nationwide that the number of umpires and refs are just shrinking. And we're going to get into why throughout this show. But we wanted to have a very special guest on today, Bruce Epstein, who is somebody who has been behind the plate, maybe at some of the games that you've attended. And actually, I just really love the fact that Bruce here is the second guest that you've had on that you met in Italy. It makes you sound like such a world traveler.
How the show, I guess, became
You're just
what we
inviting
are,
people on that you met on vacation,
Yes.
Dad. This is where we are.
This is where we're at. Well, it was truly we were in Italy.
Yeah.
And with this group,
Like a tour group.
Well, it wasn't
Kind of?
quite a tour group.
No?
It was how to say this? This business organized us both to
Yes,
go.
it was happenstance. We both used the same tour
That's it.
travel agent.
Right, that's what I mean.
We were
That's
staying
what
in
I
the same hotel, and we were both going over to Capri that day.
Yes.
Capri, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And we were got in the car, and you got in the car, and we found we were both from Cleveland.
Right. We did.
So we started talking a little bit, Chuck and Pat, Bruce and Sharon, and we were talking a little bit. We get on the boat over to Capri, and it's a lot of other young people and the four gray hairs.
Yeah.
And so we sort of hung together, and they got up in the front of the boat where we were in the back, where it was a little more calm. And we got over to the island together. We figured, let's give it a try. We take a ride into town.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so we're walking around together, and finally my wife says, "Oh, Chuck and Pat, what's your last name?"
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Kyle." And my wife had no recollection, and I said, "Oh, well, that's a very famous name in Cleveland."
Oh.
Yeah.
And there we went from there. So
That's okay.
it's a happenstance thing.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Well, it's so fun to have you on, and we're going to talk a lot about the people who actually make the game go
Yeah.
and your history. But I want to start out. What sports did you play growing up? Like, what kind of sports did you fall in love with when you were a kid?
I played a lot of baseball. We used to play baseball. You played that and football. It was just touch football and stuff like that. A lot of times in the street. Sometimes if you on a grassy area, but most of all it was touch football in the street after school on a Saturday afternoon, that kind of thing. I was never that great at any of the sports. I enjoyed doing it. It was kind of fun, but I was never that good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, I began to look at the people that were on the field but not actually playing the game, which, of course, in baseball is the umpires. And I began to take a fascination to that aspect of things. And I played softball after college for a number of years. And I was in my middle 30s. I had other obligations. I was married, had a couple kids. There were other things that had to happen. I didn't have time to get injured, all these other things. So I dropped out of it for about 10 years while the kids were getting older. And then as they were more independent, I was on a bike one day, biking around, and I was on a Sunday morning, and I saw a ball field, and they were playing softball.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the ump. Maybe that's a way to get back into it,
Right.
back into the game without actually playing it. And that's I made a call, and I found out where to take the classes, and That was 32 years ago.
Oh, wow.
There you are. Yeah, so he's a veteran. He's a
Yeah.
veteran of the umpire group. You know, and they're pretty close. Yeah,
He brought his hat.
That was a signal for you to put the hat on.
Yes,
all right,
because
When I say
we're always
group.
looking for members. We're the Eastern Cuyahoga County Umpires Association, and that's me. I didn't want to be too dressed up for this because umpires don't always have the best reputation when they're dressed, but I do want to get some advertising in there if I
Right.
can.
That's right.
That's
So
so
thank you
fun.
for the
So
opportunity.
there's where as we go along, we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Hey,
Here's how you get
young
in. Yeah.
person out there.
Right.
How about thinking about getting involved?
Yeah.
Because it's needed.
Yeah.
Hello, it's so needed.
So so you make that call, and then did you have to go
Yes.
through training? How does that work?
Yeah, there's a 10-hour course, I believe it was. In those days, it was all in person. We went for like 8 weeks or something like that on a Monday night for a couple hours. I can't recall the exact number of hours it is. But now it's all online and stuff. But you had an in-person class for those number of weeks in February and March, pretty much. The end of March, you would take a written test, true, false. And you needed 70% to pass. Is all you needed. But it was well done. And then they start putting you out. Well, you go out on the field. First of all, reading a rule book and going out on the field are two different experiences. When it all takes place live, it's different. Everybody thinks they know the game, strikes, outs, fair, foul, this kind of stuff. But there's a way more involved than all that stuff. And game management.
So did you start? Okay, here's your first few games. Maybe starting with the youth.
Yeah, they started me with softball because they knew I played softball too. So there was some adult men's softball. We did some of that. That could be a little rough, especially when you don't have your sea legs yet, because they can get a little gruff.
We will talk about that gradually in the next.
But then for the baseball and the in those days it was underhand slow pitch for the girls. Yet still in those days, this was in the mid '90s, and that changed just about 2 or 3 years in. They switched to fast pitch. But the Title IX and all that kind of stuff, and things had to be more equal, and it became fast pitch. So there was that. So how did we get into that? I forgot where we were.
We're talking about. So your first couple games or two.
Oh,
like
right.
how did that go?
Then it went to kids. So then they started putting me more and more kids after school games, Saturday games, things like that.
Yeah.
And that's where you sort of learn. You can make mistakes. It's not so critical because the kids are pretty young. Most of the parent coaches don't always know either, and it's a good place to begin to learn how to handle the game.
Yeah, and obviously you kept moving up and up in your group, and at that point it's the same thing with football officials. You start the veterans watch you.
Yes,
right.
right.
Okay, this guy can handle it. Let's get him more into here we are.
There's
high school, small college he gets into
right.
too.
There were some observers that used to come and they would comment, they would critiques, but they would also say what you did well. It wasn't always your mistakes.
Yeah.
And of course, some of your mistakes it's live and in person, and you could see it.
Well,
they let you know what your mistakes are.
Well,
yeah.
But
and that's every official I've ever talked to. They go, it's a bang situation. Sometimes.
Yep.
And there's no
slow motion replays.
The replay. No, they don't. No, they don't give you a replay, right? Major League can get a replay, right? They can go to the booth and NFL football. There's officials and all these in New York City, sitting there watching every game that's going on.
Yep.
And that's when they throw the bean bag or whatever, right?
Right.
And you think it's just the officials on the field talking? No, it goes all the way back to New York. And but meanwhile, at a high school or youth game, you're it.
All right, so
you got to do it.
So one of the things they teach us from the beginning is wait. It's going to be just as safe or just as out if you wait a moment, replay it in your head because that's all you have for a moment. Make sure you know what you saw. And then make the call. Don't call it too quickly. A ball could be dropped. Then you've got to change it out to safe. You don't want to change a call if you don't have to.
Yeah.
And then sometimes when there are bang bang, you replay it in your brain and you play it, and it does help you to make a more effective call, a more accurate call.
Yeah. I want to talk about, we're going to talk about the shortage also coming up. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll talk about the shortage that's happening, your experience in why you think there's a shortage, because there's a lot of information out there online about surveys that have happened. And I know there's a lot of factors that have played into it, but
Certainly.
this is affecting all of our youth games, and it's putting them in danger, too, of not happening. We're going to have more when we come back. Welcome back. Thank you so much for watching The Object of the Game. We are with Bruce Epstein today. He took a break from the ball diamond today to be with us. I don't see any dust on your shoes, so you didn't come straight from work today. But we're talking about the umpire, the referee shortage in general. But Bruce has been an umpire here locally for 32 years. So we're getting a little bit behind the scenes, and we're going to get into, why there's a shortage, some of the stories, some of the things that he's seen. But in the commercial break, Dad, you brought up a good point that, Bruce is a busy guy.
Right. Bruce, what's your typical week? Here it is. It's been spring. There's JV baseball games, varsity baseball games, girls, boys.
Right.
And now it's summer. Mm-hmm. All these leagues are going on.
Right. So the high school season or the school season starts the end of March, give or take whatever week how the calendar runs, and runs through the middle of June. The high school season just ended last weekend. Actually, the state finals were over this last weekend. But I started on March 30th or something like that, and then you have a couple scrimmage games even before that in March, weather permitting.
Right.
The whole thing is weather permitting. Baseball is particularly sensitive to weather permitting.
Yes.
So it can be the season. Then the summer season starts. There is an overlap from the end of April until the middle of June. There's an overlap because there's summer ball. There's the beer league softball if you're interested in getting into that. There's the rec leagues from like 10-year-old up to high school. Baseball and girls fast pitch as well too. So you can be working after school games, and then you can even have an after dinner game that you can go to. Some
so it's pretty clear that if you really want to do this, you could be working, how many days a week?
You could be working every day, pretty much.
7 days a week
in the summer for sure.
Yeah.
In the high school season, there's no Sunday ball, but you do in the summer. There's all sorts of rec leagues all week long. I get calls all the time from other associations or emails or whatever that want you to come. You can't do it, then you short our association, and it's just not fair. But there's a shortage, so there's more games, more situations, more fields to be covered than there are officials to cover them. And unfortunately, during the school season in particular, it's unfortunate because sometimes the games can't be played. Especially at the lower levels, maybe in the 7th and 8th grade, where they'll try to cover the higher scholastic games. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's where we're at. That's where we're at.
It's unfortunate for the kids,
and that's why we've got to talk about that. Talk about how we can.
Now, I feel like this has been in the headlines at least over the last 2 years about the referee umpire shortage nationwide. This isn't just
it's nationwide.
An Ohio problem. This is all across the country. I know that according to surveys, a lot of umpires and refs cited COVID as a reason why there was a huge drop-off. Is that what you saw?
Yes, that was a major blow to the avocation. I think across the nation there were like 25,000 baseball umpires alone that dropped out for one reason or another. They've dropped out because of COVID. They didn't want to get sick, and a lot of people just never came back in.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They just never felt like they needed to. They didn't want to. They said, they left well enough alone. And that's only baseball. That doesn't include all the other sports. And there are shortages of every kind of timekeeper, referee, any sort of official that you can imagine, any sport at every level, nationwide.
Wow.
So, and when the games can't be played because of it, it's really too bad.
Right.
What are the other reasons you think there was a shortage? Because it was starting to be a problem before COVID.
Right.
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, there's so many things to do. There's so many options. When we started the association, it's about 50 years ago. We've been since the mid-'70s when we started the Eastern Cuyahoga County Umpire Association, there were more industrial jobs. So we had guys who got off of work at 3:30 and could work after school games.
Right.
Oh, wow.
There
We
you
have
are.
less of that kind of thing now and more service jobs
Right.
that work until 5 o'clock. So it's a little bit harder.
Never thought of that.
Yeah, I never thought of that
never thought
either.
of that, but that's
It's a
true.
little bit harder to get people
Yeah.
now.
The 9 to 3 job, or 7
7
in
to
the morning
3,
till
yeah.
3 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep.
Hey,
schedules
let's
worked.
Yeah.
change clothes and go do a game.
Schedules
That's-
work. Right.
Wow.
Some of it is, you always hear a lot about the problems with the fans, the parent fans.
That's what I was getting at,
and
Bruce.
there is.
Yeah.
We're gonna, when you read the
I
news,
should have just asked you blatantly. Like
when you
this-
read the news, there is a lot of news about that.
Yeah.
I will tell you personally, that's been a very small amount of it. When you don't know as much what you're doing, when you're earlier on, yes, you do get it because they know there's a fish out there. They can
they can smell.
they can hit. Yeah, they can grab.
They
So,
sense blood.
Bruce, are we saying there is an advantage to gray hair in some
little bit,
aspect
a
around
little
here?
bit, a
Look
little
at
bit,
that.
a little bit, but it's also the experience that
Yeah.
comes with it too. They know,
Right.
they can tell by your game management, your timing, your movement, your confidence level that just builds. You don't want to be overly so. It's just a matter you want to be enough to maintain order.
Right.
You don't want to
There
be too much of your chest out. That kind of stuff does not play well as a referee or umpire in any sport.
But I have
Other
to.
reasons, I think there's just so many other things to do. People have more options
Yeah.
than they used to. People boat. They, I don't know. They have RVs. They go away for the weekend. They camp. I don't know. I think there's just so many options
Right.
for people now too in
Yeah.
life. that
Yeah,
they
it'd be
choose other
easy to
things.
say, "Oh, I don't need it. I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that." And that you hear stories that where you hear, "Well, I'm going to my car and some
Yeah.
parent,
Yeah.
he was out at third, or
I've had a
that
couple
was
of those.
and you're going, what good is that comment?
Right.
The guy's trying to get home.
Right.
There's no instant replay in any of these games,
Yeah.
right?
The best thing is to just not engage. Don't engage.
Yeah.
If you answer, that's what they're looking for because you'll get more. So the best thing is to just not engage. That's what I found.
Just
Yeah.
get in the car and go.
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
been
it
a
just-
few of those episodes, but nothing
Yeah.
that I've ever felt threatened or really serious.
good.
But I'm not discounting the news and the things that do happen. I know there are situations.
Yeah.
We want to hear some of your stories. Maybe one of those crazy situations, maybe a good situation. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have more with Bruce Epstein. You're watching The Object of the Game, and I have to admit, I've just gotten some great news. The fact that maybe Northeast Ohio isn't the vicious place, that we keep hearing about when it comes to umpires and refs, because we have our guest, Bruce Epstein, on today. Bruce, we were just talking about anywhere you turn, when you talk about, when you look at the headlines about this referee shortage, umpire shortage, people are citing bad behavior on coaches, parents, even players. And there has been some documentation of it.
Yes.
You've seen video, we've heard stories, but you're telling me that it's not that bad in Northeast Ohio, which
Yeah.
is good news. That makes me proud of our people,
Right.
that we're not
Right.
we're not the worst.
Right.
But I do want you. I'm going to ask you a good story. But was there ever an instance? Tell a story about because we also want to bring a light on this show to some of the behavior that should be discouraged.
Right.
We want to give
How to be a
Right.
parent at a game.
right.
Well,
like
let-
what as a
right.
referee,
Yeah.
what is it
Or
that
a
annoys
coach.
you, or as an umpire, what annoys you the most?
Let me start first by telling you full disclosure. I have lost my patience once or twice
Oh.
too along the way.
Well,
It
that's
does-
good.
It also
Look
can
at
go
that.
both ways.
It happens to
I
the
mean,
best of us.
sometimes you
Bruce,
just
you're shocking me here.
Sometimes you've just had enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So that it could happen.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we're supposed to be the adults on the field and
Thank you.
keep that
There you
in
go.
mind, and that is far and away the rule. But there have been an exception or two. I don't think it's. I think you see it on TV with major league umpires too. Every once in a while, it's partly the baseball doesn't have a 15-yard unsportsmanlike contact unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. It doesn't have a technical or a double technical foul like basketball does, and the umpire is going to listen to it, or you're gone. There is nothing in between, unfortunately. High school ball does have a National Federation. High schools does offer a bench penalty where you can sit the coach down on the bench, but he's not leaving,
Right.
and he could still be a problem from there. So it's not really an ideal. But I put some of that in baseball's lap because it's just the I don't know if they'll ever change that in any way or not. A standpoint of stories, you want to hear? So
Yeah,
what, so
even
when
just an example of something that annoys you the most as an umpire.
Well, Ohio High School and the Federation have really clamped down a good bit, especially in the last several years. So there isn't nearly the noise from the coaches as there used to be.
Right.
They used to complain about everything and anything, and it was Now you get that in the summer from the parent coaches because it's their kid.
Right.
So they got they can definitely have a piece of the pie in that, but they got skin in the game.
Yeah.
But they've made it really difficult for a while. The coaches had to go down to Columbus for an anger management course, and they still have to do something online now.
Oh, wow.
And there's a fine involved.
Right.
So they really have tamped down on that. They're more respectful, and they don't complain a lot about balls and strikes because that's really a no-no. They'll ask you, is it in or is it out? They can tell if it's too high or too low from where they're sitting. They don't know whether it's in or out. So you've got a little bit of play. If they say, was that in? You go, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was it. I'm not going to argue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. But I learned a couple things. Once, when it was a Euclid Mentor game, I think it was.
Rivalry.
And,
So
rivalry.
that makes it
Big
even-
rivalry.
Tensions are high.
Tensions high
They
already.
both Mentor's a huge school. They always have good teams because they got so many kids. At that time, Euclid was still a big powerhouse in baseball.
Big.
And the bases were loaded. It was a tie game, last inning, or late in the game anyhow. And the batter's up there, and it's an inside pitch, and he just stands there and doesn't move. Well, the rule demands that the batter must make an attempt. In other words, he can't lead into it. He can't just stand there without moving a little bit to make an honest attempt to get out of the way of the ball, the pitch. And he got hit by the pitch, and he's trotting to first, and they're screaming already. We're playing at Euclid. That was the home field, and I'm yelling, no. They don't give you a whistle in baseball.
Right.
Boy,
Yeah.
sometimes when I love to
just
have a
you
whistle,
waving.
Yeah.
I'm yelling, and my hands are flaring. I said, back in the box, back in the box. I want you here, back in the box. Finally, they got the idea when the fans quieted down. It was a pretty good audience that day, and the head coach from Mentor, who was the pitching coach, who was the head coach of the team that was pitching, happened to walk by during all this tumult. He goes, yeah. He said, boy, that was almost a good enough pitch. That could have been a strike. That was Len Taylor, who I had a lot of respect for at the time.
Yeah.
And I said, let's not go that far. Okay. It's not going to be a strike. But, but that just shows you, see, a coach doesn't care what's right or wrong. They just want their they want their call.
Yeah.
They don't care. It's not, and I no offense
Hey,
at all to a stellar coach as yourself, but a coach is coming from a biased side of things, rightfully so. And in baseball, they want their situation to just
But also
right one.
involved in that story. How many of the fans really knew that rule?
No.
I don't think they.
No,
any of them
until
knew
now
that.
I didn't know that rule.
booing
So
left
they,
and right.
They see the ball
Right.
hit the guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They're
Now-
almost saying, hey, if he leans out,
Right.
the bases are loaded.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
these are things that
That's
you know,
right.
it goes through the
That's
mind a little bit, and they're going, what? It hit him.
Right,
Well,
right,
now
right.
there's a rule. Now, they don't have that rule
No,
book, right?
no,
and that
well,
happens in
the
that.
coaches know.
Yes.
The coaches know this.
Well-
but they're
Are they going to run over to the crowd going, hey, wait a minute.
Right.
He's right. Settle down.
no,
That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't
right?
happen. No, it doesn't happen.
And so there's issues like that.
I walked over to the Euclid coach at the end of the game. I said, "Boy, that was close, wasn't it?" He goes, "You almost made us lose that game." I never said anything to a coach again after a game. It's over. I'm done. I'm
You gotta
done.
walk.
That was the last
That
time. because all I was a bad guy, even though they ended up winning. Anyhow,
yes.
I was still a bad guy.
Oh.
He didn't like it. That was.
We're coming up against another commercial break here, but I
yeah.
think we have enough time to talk about, like, what is it that you love, though? Like, what is it that keeps you
it-
coming back
Experiences
over
like
and
that, you know,
over?
okay, come on. Why you like coming
Passion for the game, for the game, being involved with the kids, and focusing on something that's totally different and outside of my regular box. I'm a businessman. I have a business where we sell, we import and sell and distribute disposable mechanics gloves around the country and around the world as well too. But I love getting out of that box, out of that comfort zone, and being into a whole other focus that you have to be 100% into, because as soon as you slip out of that, boom, you're going to get nabbed with a mistake.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I really enjoy.
You can
the
picture
focus.
it's the next. Here it is, next play. Here it is.
Yeah.
The next few seconds, and you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen in the next few seconds.
You don't know.
In teaching, in business, we have a plan.
Yeah.
We can make that call. We know we're going to do this, but here it is.
No.
It's all read the situation, react.
Right.
And that is exciting.
Yes. Yeah, you have to.
But you got to be. You
gotta-
got to wake up. Let's go.
You
So
gotta be
when it
awake.
is tie ball game, bases loaded,
Real
do you
ex-
get into it too?
You
Or
get
are you
definitely.
like,
Oh, you have to
are
bear
you
down.
on edge?
You got to bear down. Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. You try to keep from getting nervous about it, but you have to stay focused, because it's already late in the game now too, so you're getting a little more tired than you were 3-4 innings ago. But the pressure and the intensity is greater than it's ever been too. So you've got all these things playing into that, and you've just got to be 100% focused and keep. You kind of say your prayers that you're going to do it right.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know, no umpire never. They always want to get it right. They don't want to make
Sure.
a mistake.
Yeah.
But we're human, and it happens. And you do the.
I mean-
everybody's out there doing the best they can.
I mean, the next pitch, one side's going to cheer and the other side's going to not
Always.
be happy.
Always.
And here you are.
Yeah.
Always.
You gotta
And
react
you're in the
to it.
middle.
That's
You're
why
in
you
the
just
middle.
have to be honest with everything, with yourself and with what you're watching, and call what you see, because otherwise, you're going to be disappointing or patting the back of one side or the other. You've just got to be focused in what you know is right.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about how do we fix this shortage? How do we get people to want to come back to the game, maybe play the part that Bruce has been playing as an umpire, or if it's another sport, referee. We will be right back. Welcome back to the object of the game. Our guest today is Bruce Epstein, who has been an umpire here in Northeast Ohio for 32 years, has seen a lot from behind the plate and on the ball field. Bruce, what we were talking about is the shortage. And do you see at this point, is it, I guess we might have mentioned it, but I want to emphasize, is it difficult to staff games? Like, are some of our kids' games and college games and even, like you call them, beer league games, are those in danger of not happening?
Yes, there are shortages all the time. There are shortages at the school level. As I mentioned earlier, I think especially in the lower levels, because oftentimes they'll get the short end of the stick, and the high school game or the JV or the freshman gets to play, because they generally want, whenever possible, the state mandates, Ohio high school, that there be at least 2 officials on any varsity or junior varsity game. Whereas the other ones, they can get by with 1. There's been situations, though, where we've had 1 guy, and there are places in rural Ohio where they just don't have the people, where they're sending
That's
one
what I was going
one
to
man
ask you.
to a
situation
varsity
where
game.
here you are, you're expecting the other guy to show up, and there's the teams.
Yeah. It
Okay.
One.
It happens.
Yeah.
It does.
Managers come in. I mean, you got to. Hey, look, I'm going to do this alone.
Yeah.
You
just let 'em
gotta.
know.
You got to understand. I can't be everywhere. I mean, because
Right.
I know that's happened in football too.
Yeah.
You know, you have the a freshman game, and there's supposed to be maybe 3 guys there, and
Somebody's
there's
short.
2, and
Yeah.
you're like, well, these guys aren't going to see everything. I mean, it's
Can't.
impossible. You can't be everywhere. So everybody understand here. You know, we're the adults here. Let's understand. This isn't going to be easy for the umpire. We'll do our best we can. You know.
The best thing about that is at least those games don't count either. So I
Right.
mean, other than
Right,
than
that lower
pride
level.
in yourself,
Yeah.
those games don't count. So if they're
Yeah,
little,
they're more experienced.
It's a learning,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
So how do we
tell
change
that
it?
to the parents, though?
Well,
Right,
I-
my rec softball game tonight. I don't know.
Oh,
Lots on the
here we
line.
go.
My child's, not mine. I
Okay.
can't
Yeah,
play.
yeah,
I can't
yeah.
play at all.
Okay.
I was never shown up to bat in 7th grade because I walked every single time.
Ah.
I want to ask, how do you think we can change this shortage? Like, if you could point out, like, what is the one major obstacle that is preventing people from going through that training and becoming an umpire?
Just taking the time to go about it, to understand what it is. You know, I was saying to Chuck before the in between the breaks here that everybody's a great armchair referee, umpire. Everybody can do a better job, and he's blind, and what's he doing? And that's ridiculous. But then you ask the person if they want to go out there and do it. Oh, no, not me. No.
Right.
So the thing is, you have to just give it a try. Give it a try. See for yourself. You know, you think you can do a good job. You've watched plenty of games. You're not satisfied. Try it and see what you think.
Right.
Find out. You go to for ohsaa.org, and you can find out how to be an official, a referee, an umpire for any sport in Ohio. It's at a scholastic level. You could go to almost any recreation league around the area and call at the beginning of the season, before the season starts especially, and find out what are the needs. The best time to start, I would probably say, is during teenage years, from anytime from 16, 17 up. That's a good way to get your feet in it. See if you want. It's a good summer job. You can have a job during the day and do that at night. Actually, I did, when I was in college, I had a day job in the summers, and I used to umpire Tris Speaker in Cleveland Heights, a Little League. In those days, it was a couple of bucks a game or something like that. But so I even did it in the evenings and enjoyed it. I got a little bit of experience then.
Right. Having the youth thing, I really believe needs to be.
Yeah,
worked
start
on.
young. Start
Right.
young
I
if
mean,
you can.
here's high school. You say high school kids, and here are the the little league, the little kids, t-ball. I don't know. Coaches pitch.
Sure.
You can always picture that.
Sure.
Well, okay. Maybe the high school kid, learns. Come on, there's no pressure with that.
Right.
But they just wanted to organize where the kid can get used to that,
Yeah.
make a little money, maybe start getting excited about it.
Yeah.
Okay, come on, kid, move to the next level. Here we
That's
go.
right.
And I think that's important, and that we start those kids a little earlier in doing it, because by the time they're out there in the world now, they've gone to college, they haven't done anything, they got their job, and sometimes it's hard to get them to get going, but the kid going. And I've been pushing this, and Bruce, I strongly believe we've got all these young ladies that are out there, and they're good athletes.
Yes.
This is a football thing,
Yes.
but now we're moving over to baseball now.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Softball.
These are
Softball,
girls that, come on, softball,
Yeah.
they know the game.
We've had
it's
women.
not that, they can, how about they can, umpire a hardball game?
Yeah, we've had women over the years. We don't currently, but we have had several women umpires over the years for baseball and softball both. But yes, for sure.
I mean, they have two eyes.
Yeah.
Right?
ADs from
Come on.
Last time I checked, yeah.
Halfway
just-
Brown, things like that. Sure.
And maybe
Yeah.
the crowd will be a little less
Gruff.
gruff.
While you have the
Possibly.
soapbox here.
Possibly. ECCUA.org, by the way, guys.
Yes.
So Eastern Cuyahoga County Umpires Association.org. You can get information about us that way. It's an online course now again. Anybody can take it. There's a small fee. I don't recall what it is today, maybe $40. The one thing I will say about umpiring baseball to start up rather than others, again, full disclosure, is you do have more equipment to buy. In most of the other sports, you only have a uniform and shoes. Baseball, you've got the uniform and the shoes, but you've also got a chest protector, mask, and some leg guards and stuff too, and maybe steel-toe shoes if you're wise. So there is a little bit more cost, but we also have some used equipment, good, solid used equipment from people that have retired over the years, and we do pass that on. We do help new guys get started with it.
Whatever costs like that, there is such a need.
Yes.
you'll get that money back.
Yeah.
You work a
Very
couple games.
quickly.
You work at 2-3 games and you got
You
it all.
got it all
it's
back.
back.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
come on.
I know. What a
It's-
great summer job. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. I want to thank you for watching. For Coach Chuck Kyle, I'm Maureen Kyle. Another big thank you to Infinity of Beechwood and Akron. Remember, download the Big Play app. That's where you're going to see all of the episodes all the time, or check us out on YouTube. We'll see you next time.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Infinity. Luxury experiences for those who dare to be different.